and welcome back to Women's Biz Tribe Success Summit. We are so delighted that you are joining us. We've been having such a great time over the last day and a half, and we've got a whole half a day left to go. It's been fantastic having so many new people come into Women's Biz Tribe, start connecting us. I've found a few of you at our Facebook group already. You're welcome to just start coming to any of our events next week. We have something on every single day in a couple of different time zones. So super excited to build our global community. I am now extremely excited to welcome our next speaker. Her name is Leeza Steindorf. And if you don't know Leeza already, she's an executive coach for the Forbes Coaches Council. She's a Canfield success trainer from Tony Robbins, a results coach. She's been the host of a public TV show, Live with Leeza. She's got incredible amount of qualifications. So besides being a leadership coach and consultant and trainer and speaker, she's actually all about guiding professionals, especially women, to shift their power paradigm and transform limitations, discrimination, conflict, and crisis into understanding and thriving growth. Oh, what a fantastic thing to be doing. What a great purpose in life. Welcome to the summit, Leeza.
Thank you, Annie. It's so good to be here. Love everything you do. It's always with pizzazz.
I'm a queen of pizzazz, that's for sure. I know. I am excited today because you are going to be talking about cracking the mask, or you'll say mask. And I'd love you to start off by saying, well, what is that? What is the message going to be all about?
Absolutely. So we often don't even recognize any more than we wear them. We put them on when we're quite small. We're told that how we are, who we are, what we're doing isn't okay for whatever reason. And so every time that we're acting out of that natural place in ourselves and we get feedback from our environment, that's okay. Don't do that. That's not all right. We shrink a little bit. We check out, oh, this is okay, this isn't okay. And we start to edit what mask we have on. How much of ourselves do we show? When do we hold back? And how do we control the flow of our natural self, of our authentic self? And then we think that that's the safe way to be in the world. That's what's going to give me freedom. And it's actually just the opposite. It's quite hindering. And especially in business, people that want to thrive, if you are inauthentic, it's like driving full throttle with the emergency brake on. Yes. So
I'll tell you what, sorry to interrupt you there. And then once you've got that mask on, it's just so challenging, because then suddenly people know you as one way, and then you get in this situation of who am I now, and I can't change now. It becomes quite stressful, and I'm sure you're going to talk all about that. But I'm imagining that scene now, that you just go, yeah, that's right. I can see why I get myself into a habit of putting on a mask, pretending that I'm feeling something, being something, am something different than I actually, truly are. But it gets really, really complicated. So what's the cost then of having this mask on? The being inauthentic at different times of your day, your life.
Well, it's interesting, when we're talking about masks, like even women, right? I rarely wear makeup, right? But the mascara, the lipstick, whatever it is that we do, or people say, I need to put my face on.
They do.
We don't even feel comfortable anymore just being how we are, right? We have to present ourselves in a certain way. And sometimes it's fun, like to get all sparkly and put the glitz on, right? But if we feel like we need to do that, or we can't present ourselves, or we're not safe to present ourselves without that mask, even the physical one on, that is a cost. We're not being our true selves. And one of the questions that I ask people when I do this work is, let me start a different way. Let's define success, because the way that I define success is a little bit different. It's not what we achieve. Our success is not what we achieve. It's not the money we have. It's not the title, how many clients, what have you, or how we've grown our business. Success is actually who you are. You are success. And from that living of yourself fully in the world, you achieve things. So it's actually the other way around. And so if we take that definition that I am success, and how successful I am in being me is going to impact how my business is, then we have to talk about ourselves if we're talking about how we're going to do our business, right? And the very basic question is, do you absolutely love yourself? Like, do you love who you are? And most of the time people are like, well, I do, but, or most of the time, right? Instead of absolutely. And it's that absolutely that we're entitled to. And when we find that value in ourselves, when we trust that who we are naturally without the mask is the most valuable and the optimal to give to the world, when we rely on that, that's really when our businesses can take off, when our relationships really thrive, and where we have that freedom to be in the world. There's no apology, there's no fear, and there's no hiding. You can just be yourself. And so the cost, as you were just asking, the cost is if we don't do that. Let's say that I have my masks on, right? And I go into either a business meeting or into a private meeting, and I have my mask on if I can't be too intense, right? That's what I heard as a young person, right? You're so intense. I'm intense, right? But I wasn't supposed to be intense. I was supposed to, kind of put a little damper on it. So I go into a meeting and I'd be a little damper, a little quieter, a little gentler with my intensity, and then I would get the contract, or I would start the relationship. But my natural self, that intensity, that passion, that fire, right? I'm holding back. So the cost of being inauthentic is, I don't know if I got that contract because maybe they think that I'm not able to bring, or they're not comfortable with intensity. And so I always have to hold back. Or the relationship, maybe they're liking me because they think that I'm more subdued, but what happens when they find out? So I have this fear or this reticence to just be fully me, right? So that's the cost, is I'm constantly in a state of not knowing. I might believe that people care or want to work with me, but I really don't know. So there's a constant state of unsureness, if you will.
There sure is. I tell you what, that happens in relationships. When we actually talk about that, the honeymoon phase, in the honeymoon phase, everything is wonderful, and you can only, or when you're dating even, so you're always dressed up great. You've got your lippy on, you don't have all the back issues happening, which is just life and being authentic. And so you can get this distorted perspective of what, who you are, what that person is that you're going out with. And then all of a sudden, that's right, you move in together and you're there 24/7, and you're like, oh, hello, here's some surprises. Wasn't expecting that. And that's because it's not sustainable. It's actually not sustainable. If someone is trying to sustain that mask, ongoing, one, they're going to just be so exhausted, but two, eventually it has to crack, right? And
Right.
so one, for someone like me, it's just way too exhausting. I couldn't be bothered. But also, it is really challenging. But for the other person, it's like you want them to be enjoying the person that you truly are. If you're kind of faking it, then they're actually getting robbed and you're getting robbed. You said something before too, that you said because you're entitled to be who you unapologetically who you are, right? I'd love you to tap into that a little bit for the listeners, because I think that is such a great point, because I totally agree. I think you are entitled. You absolutely should be unapologetically every little bit of what makes you quirky and fun and bits and pieces. I've been told many times over my life I had to quieten down, had to be a little bit less noisy, a little bit less energy, a little bit less Annie, right? And then I'm like, whenever I try to do that, I'm like, oh, it's so tricky. I have to concentrate a lot, and then I've even had other people who come up to me and go, "Are you well today? Are you okay?" Because it's like, obviously not you, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just trying to be quiet. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm trying to be this, trying to be that." Other people, so that's a funny little share from me. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that while we say we are entitled, while we deserve to be who we actually are, other people interpret that as then, oh, but I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to, me being all me suddenly makes them feel like you're being selfish, and that's too much for everybody else. Whereas it's obviously not selfish. But what's your take on that? Because you're the expert.
Well, it's interesting. And you call me an expert. The only reason that I'm speaking on this is because it took me a long time to get here, right? I spent a lot of my life feeling like I'm not okay. What I heard was, you are too, and then fill in the blank, whatever, right? Too loud, too intense, too intelligent, too large, too whatever. And so in coming back to loving ourselves, most people are waiting for, and that's where the entitlement is. Like I was born me. We were all born ourselves. The idea that we have to do something, alter ourselves, make nice, whatever, in order to be loved is such a bizarre concept, but we have taken it as a truth, as a fact. And so we wait until we try and make ourselves better, softer, louder, smarter, whatever. And then waiting for, am I going to be loved now? Am I going to be accepted now? Oh, yes, now I am. And the interesting thing, the other people are doing the same thing. So we're sitting here all waiting for the other person to love us so we can finally love ourselves, right? And the greatest gift you can give to anybody is to be yourself. Because here's the thing, we were talking about the cost. The cost of inauthenticity is that you are rejected for who you are not, and you are wanted for who you are not. And the consequence of authenticity is that you are wanted for who you are, and you're also rejected for who you are. So whatever you're involved with, you know it's real. Like they see all of you and they say, absolutely not my flavor. Okay, now you know. Or they see all of you and they're like, oh, I so want to work with you or be in a relationship with you. And then you know that it's rock solid. There's a trust and a bond, a sense of connection that takes place when people are authentic. And you know that feeling. You're listening to somebody, even, you know, you have these wonderful speakers. You feel that authenticity coming off in this summit. But there are other ones out there in the world where you're listening. It's like, information sounds right, but gosh, it's just not resonating, right? That authenticity resonates with our core. And that gives us permission then to come and be ourselves. And so we are entitled to that. It's who we were born as. It was our right.
Yeah. I love looking at from both sides. One, that is absolutely who you were born to be, and you should really, just absolutely absorb the 100% essence of who you are and what that means. And then also, that's right, let everyone else who comes in contact with you actually experience the real you, right? Because I love that phrase, you're not everyone's cup of tea. I've been told that a few times, and I'm like, well, of course I'm not everyone's cup of tea because I'm a champagne girl. So like I just attract the champagne, and they just look at you and go, oh, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? That's right. While you're trying to be all things to all men, as the saying goes, or women, then that's right. You're always going to be less, because you shouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. You shouldn't be, meeting, even this speaker, we've got 44 amazing speakers from around the world. And some of them, which is just incredible, but we'll also get some of them who, I'll get people on the chat going, oh my gosh, this lady's just like the best. And then someone else will be resonating. And that's what way it should be. That's why we've got the breadth. That's why Annie Gibbins goes and says, oh my gosh, the whole mix of this summit, I'm going to reach out to this person and this person, because that actually gives the diversity. That actually makes it a really interesting and fascinating. If we were all the same vanilla, then not so fun, not so inspiring. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and so anyway, I just find the whole topic in that way absolutely fascinating.
What is important for me, and what I empower people to do, is to anchor within themselves to what I call self-studentship, right? To be self-directed and have that sovereignty of knowing who you are and what's important to you. So taking yourself seriously without taking yourself seriously, right? So really acknowledging, admiring yourself. And if we come back to business, I'd like to give you two examples, because being authentic, I've had people say, well, do you have to be authentic all the time? What's your choice? Like, you get to choose who you are whenever. And if you are going to be inauthentic, I invite you to say to yourself, at least, I'm being fraudulent. I'm being inauthentic. I'm withholding. I'm misrepresenting, right? Or I'm lying, because that's basically what inauthenticity is, right? So the way that I define it is there's a congruency between what's happening within me and what I'm expressing to the world. That's authentic. And inauthenticity is where there's a discrepancy. I'm frustrated inside and I'm laying on a smile, or I'm feeling really excited, but I'm putting on a business face, right? Whatever it is, instead of having there be that congruency, which is the authenticity. So, and there are costs. So I do, as you know, I do leadership coaching, and I have a really amazing client, top senior executive woman in a tech company in Massachusetts, Boston. And she came into a position after she came back from maternity leave, had a strong learning curve. And her boss was kind of a curmudgeon, older man. And there was a lot of difficulty. So they brought me in, and I'm working with this woman, and she had never had challenges. Suddenly she's in the situation. So we worked together for a long time, and she ends up getting to a point. She has all the communication skills, and she starts standing up to her boss. And he was the COO of the company. And she's standing up to him, and it turns into an issue, goes to HR. The HR has to do a whole, official report on this. And what happens is I end up being let go of as the coach. And the reason was, I was told by the HR department, if I had done my job properly, then this wouldn't have happened. Now, my response was, because I did my job well, this woman found her voice. She stood for herself in the face of being discriminated, misogyny, right? So here's the interesting thing. I come away from that project, and I come to find out that this woman has so transformed herself and the situation that she has been now promoted.
Yeah.
And within this organization, she has totally changed the culture, and she wants to now bring me back in to work with the core female leadership, my program that I do within organizations, to help the entire female leadership team do this. So,
I love it.
But I didn't know that, right? So being authentic is doing you the best way you know how to do you, without holding back. And either way, there's going to be consequences from that.
Absolutely, there'll be consequences. That is just a fabulous example. I absolutely love it. And incredible, because that's it. A lot of the time, even people will pay money because they're actually wanting that person to conform. They're actually wanting that person just to get along. But that doesn't mean that it's, excuse me. Oh dear, hang on. I'm going to sneeze on you, Leeza. Sorry, everybody. Annie's just going to have a sneeze. Oh, no, it's going to go. But watch out, everybody. I'm glad we're going virtual. But anyway, I can just feel something happening there. That's right. They're wanting to confirm. They're wanting the peace. They're wanting that misogynist boss to stay, happy the way he is, because he's been there a long time. They've got all these other issues, which are someone else's issues. And sometimes in this sort of scenario, that sounds fantastic that she was able to push through and then rise above and then create incredible change. Other times it means, you know what, gorgeous, you're too good for this place. If you are now so authentic, you actually deserve to be planted in a different garden. You need to find a company that actually respects that. And you need to know, I know another speaker was saying that, know when to leave, know when to actually go.
We had exactly that conversation, and that's where the choices, right?
Choices.
She could have remained inauthentic and not had her voice, and she did it in a very respectful way, beautiful non-judgment communication, impactful communication that we worked with in a beautiful way. And she said, if this doesn't land, I'll leave. So either way you win, right? Because being yourself is going to give you that experience, even if your environment doesn't resonate with it. Then you find a different environment that does.
Exactly. So how do we decide? How do we go about making these decisions?
Knowing yourself. So the name of my company, Core Success, it's an acronym, but it's so impactful. So it's clarity, ownership, resolution, and excellence. So really going through those things is being clear on what's going on. So as I said, when you're being inauthentic, say, boy, I am not telling the truth. I'm not being myself. I'm holding back. Like having the courage to be honest and clear with yourself, and then own that. This is what I'm doing. Not denying it, not justifying, just like, boom, there it is. And then to make a resolution. If it's external in a relationship, then you clarify it there. But often that resolution, especially in authenticity, is within ourselves. Like, how do I align this? And with the example I gave, this woman was like, you know what? This doesn't align with my values. So either I need to work with my environment so that my values come back into alignment and I resolve that, or I have to leave and find a place where I am resonating.
Yeah.
And then the E is for excellence, is that you then get to really breathe into your expertise and bring that to the forefront. So those, I call it wake up, listen up, tally up, and show up, right? That you really go through those 4 steps in a concrete way. And as I said before, it's, we do a lot of, and Annie, you do such amazing work in the world, and the women on this summit are so empowering and empowered. And we can often get in the space of words and words and words, but putting it into practice, like being real, it's hard work, right?
Right.
Especially in our culture where women are seen as number 2 when there is no number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do that work and to own our beauty, own ourselves, own our love, no matter what's happening around us, and find other people like the women here in the business tribe who will support that, because
Yes.
the world at large doesn't yet.
That's why we need a tribe. That's why we need a tribe, everyone. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant
Absolutely.
advice. Brilliant advice. What are your biggest takeaways for the delegates? What can they actually do from today? What can they start thinking about? If you're sitting here going, you know what, actually listening to this conversation, I have a mask on. I've got a permanent mask of one type, or I put it on and off in different situations. And I know some people do that. It might be an awkward situation that they go, the way around this is I put on a specific mask that no one else would know in a different context, right? Or they've got into the habit, or they actually go, you know what, I'm at the Success Summit and I've just been listening to these ladies and I'm just wanting to just go into that next step of being unapologetically me. What am I going to do now? So what's your advice?
Yeah, I am very practical, right? And because for me, it's great for us to have a lot of conceptual understanding, like that feeds our spirit. And yet, in order to have really sustainable change, we need to translate that into action. And so my suggestion would be is that if you have a diary, if you want to get just a pad of paper or what have you, I actually have a checklist that I use. And every single night before you go to sleep, at the end of your day, maybe when you're having dinner and sitting with a cup of tea, what have you, is that you tally up, right? And you can do 2 columns. One is inauthenticity and one is authenticity. What situations today was I not myself? In what situations did I hold back? In what situations did I misrepresent, right? I felt one thing and I did something else. And on the other side is, in what situations did I nail it? Did I have the courage to just be myself? Did I share my opinion non-judgmentally when I wasn't sure if it would be accepted, or in the face of knowing it wouldn't be accepted? When did I do that? So to start grooming an understanding of ourselves is going to be the most important. And there's a training that I offer for free, the Genius of Non-Judgment, that I recommend to everybody, because when we understand that our perception, our experience of the world and of ourselves is always valid. Facts can be correct or incorrect, right? My shirt is blue, not red. My hair is long, not, mohawk. Those are things we can observe and say, yes, they're correct or incorrect. But how I feel, I love the color blue, that can't be invalid or valid if you don't like blue. It simply is, and you don't like blue, then that's valid too. So to distinguish the facts from our perception of the facts helps us to be okay with owning when we're inauthentic. Oh, wow, I just lied to my boss. I wonder why I did that. And then look at that. Or, wow, I didn't tell my partner what I really felt about dinner tonight. I wonder why I did that. Or maybe I'm going to go in and tell the truth, share what's really present for me, and then share that I didn't feel comfortable and see what conversations come from that. So that's what I meant earlier by being serious about being you without taking yourself seriously and showing up in the world that way. So a tally sheet at the end of your day, and really following, just first becoming a student of yourself. When am I being inauthentic and when am I being authentic? And getting used to that, having that conversation with yourself. And I think you're going to find that you don't need the mask. And the people with whom you don't wear the mask, those are the relationships, those are the business connections that really feed you. And the ones where you feel you need to put on a mask, those aren't feeding you anyway. And the cost is most likely much higher than the benefit that you're getting out of it. So that would be my encouragement, to really crack the mask and to not hide, to make no apologies, and yeah, to be fully yourself at all times.
Brilliant. Brilliant exercise to do. Oh my goodness. I love the way you've just encouraged us just to call it out for ourselves. It's taking ownership of, who you are, the way you're showing up, and even if you've done it for specific reasons, it's not to make you feel bad about that, not about judging that. You needed it at the time. It is what it is. That's no big deal. But moving forward, I love it because you think you're doing it for a reason, which is getting you through. But there are costs. There's massive costs. And usually once you start, actually, I'm a homework girl. I love the concept of writing it down and go, hello, you, even look at yourself in the mirror, as before you go to bed, before you start writing down and go, how did you show up today? No one else needs to know that, but to actually have that practical thing and just to really be thinking about it. Oh my gosh, I think it's going to blow our minds how often we do this, because it's not just, an all day trying to pretend to be someone else. It's like they go on and off. And I love it. You've actually called it out, Leeza. How often do you lie to yourself? It's a mistruth. Right? You are showing up fraudulently. If you start using that language to yourself, I'm sure those listening in would be going, what? But it's true. It's like,
the challenge is to not judge yourself for that. And that's why I say, oh, you did it again. Instead of going and go to curiosity. Wow. I just lied about that.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Right. To really be, and also, or people in your family, like my children grew up that way. When they would lie, I'd catch them in a lie, I'd put them on and say, congratulations, you lied. Why was that? Right?
Why did you lie? Yeah. Because
and
because they thought they had to be perfect. They thought the answer was this. They, whatever. And you go, yeah, that's right. Let's talk about that. Like it's the root cause, right? I love it because we both love going deep. It's the root cause is the solution. Once you start unpacking that, oh my gosh, there is so much freedom that is going to be released from this specific session today. Those listening in, oh my goodness, pop some things in the chat. Go and say, yes, oh my gosh, it's blowing my mind. Seriously, pop something in there, because then we can come back and just know, yes, it resonated with you, because it certainly resonated with me. And I just love the practicality of that exercise and that picking it up, and I could be doing it. I've been going 2 days straight, so Annie could do it, but I could do it intentionally. So Annie is rah, like, this is true. This is real me. I know it's a bit much sometimes, but if I was suddenly then tired, I could be like, oh my God, like whatever. And then, hi everyone, hope you're having a great time. I can do that because I'll then, and then there's even phrases for that. Put your game face on, put your game energy on, whatever. You can do it. But what you're saying is, at this time, I might intentionally do that.
That's the choice.
And then I'm okay with that, right? Yeah. Or we'll go, or I'm not. I'm going to go, oh man, how are you all feeling? I'm getting pretty exhausted here. It's been a marathon. And you can then just go show up as you are. And that's okay. That's great too. Do you know what I mean? I love it. I love it. That's what we're actually calling out here.
Yeah. That's the congruency though, right? So if you're tired and you decide you're like, oh, I'm tired, but I have this person coming and I'm excited about it. Then you go into that excitement, but that then is aligned, right? You have tiredness, but the excitement is there. And you can even say that I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm so excited to be here, right? All things can coexist. That doesn't have to be the either or.
I know. And people will just love you for it. If I went somewhere and I was speaking on stage, I'm like going to go, and I actually, because I just overshare all the time, but if I actually said that to the audience and went, oh my gosh, guys, I hope you get full blown Annie energy today, because oh my goodness, I've been traveling nonstop and whoa, even got the bags here, but let's give it our best shot. They would all go, that's so Annie. Actually, it makes them feel, oh God, I'm so glad this lady says it as it is, because this is hugging the whole topic of perfectionism for me, right? As we're talking about this, because it means that you then don't have to be the perfect. You don't have to,
Well, let's redefine perfect, right? Yes. Because perfect is the whole. And so in spending a lot of my years overseas in countries where I didn't speak the language or where I didn't speak it perfectly, and I would present and I would work. And so, and I was still an expert at what I was doing, whether it was communication, conflict, crisis, coaching, whatever. And I would
Yeah.
not get a word right. I'd say, I'm sorry. I'd ask the hundreds of people, how do you say, and all the hands would go because they want to help. It's like, oh yeah, that's it. And then I would jump right back to the subject at hand. People see you're, oh, human. And now now we're still going on with the content. And so it gives gravitas actually to what you're doing, because you're not trying to hold up some false veneer of being quote unquote perfect in the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what we're wanting more and more. You know, me, for example, I've just put a book out on twins because I had 2 sets of twins, and I plugged for the book, twins. Oh, there, sorry, my screen. And that's exactly it. You want the raw and the authentic, and you want to go, you know, how did this woman do it? I get asked that all the time. Oh my goodness, how did you actually do it? How did you have 4 kids in 2 years and do 3 degrees and get to, you know, all your career goals? That's exactly it. They want the real truth. They want the real, you must have needed a lot of energy and must have needed a lot of this, all these traits. Right. And they're actually wanting that. They're not wanting this, oh, well, you know, I just got really great time management and I did this and I did that. And my children, you know, well, when you raise them well, they're just perfect. You know, like
attainable, right? If
sustainable
in the world, if success is out there somewhere all high, I can't get there. Right. But to look at someone like yourself who's done all these things and had a family and gotten tired and made mistakes and picked themselves up and had to work hard, then it's like, wow, I can do that. So it makes it life real. It gives us an opportunity.
It makes it real. And it goes from being inspiration, you know, it's a fine line between inspiration and intimidation, right? Because that person who is being fake, making it look just too great all the time, that is intimidating, because everyone else is sitting there going, oh, that's not my reality. Oh my gosh, I actually now go, if that's what it takes, I don't have it. I'm actually feeling worse. If my whole success summit was like that, the whole brand of Women's Biz Tribe, if it was like that, which I know, which is the world I've lived in, which is why I created Women's Biz Tribe. But if I did that, then I'd actually come out going, oh, there was another perfect person. That was another one amazing. Like, and then I'd actually come away disillusioned, disempowered. I'd actually feel so intimidated that I go, well, I'm never going to be that person, and therefore why bother? And I just think that's the biggest tragedy in life. I'm the opposite. I'm like going, you know, I attract women who are happy to just go, this is me. They're like, look at the sharing that's been happening over the last day and a half. It's incredible. People being so honest, so raw, and they're incredibly successful people. But their success happened because they actually had those aha moments, and they then went and said, you know what, I am going to have to just back myself. I am going to have to just step into that person. That's going to cause some waves. That's going to unsettle me for a while. I'm going to have to learn to get braver. I'm going to have to work on my courage. I'm going to have to work on my confidence. I'm going to have to just have a bit of a laugh about myself when I stuff up regularly.
Sharing from that place, like you had said, there's a fine line between intimidation and inspiration, right? Intimidation, in my experience, comes from when people are in their intellect. And I've been there in my past. Like, my intellect is what I was told was my only value when I was younger, right? Because that my family just couldn't deal with anything else, and there was not a real lot of space for heart. And so when one is only in the intellect or only in concepts, and it's going to be smart and get the point across, then people feel like, ooh, what's going on here? But when you feel yourself, when you go to your heart and you say, gosh, I cannot tell you how difficult it's been for me, right? How I've struggled, how I've, you know, had no home, or I lost my husband walked away with all of our money from 26 years. And I had to start all the way at the beginning again when I was in the middle of my life. And you share these stories that are real for yourself and say, and this is how I did it. I trusted that there was a way forward, and somebody else's actions do not define my way forward. And so what did I want to do? And I pulled on my community. And so when you share from that heart, that's what makes your experience accessible to people. And that is authentic.
Exactly. And it's not, you know, we'll brand it storytelling. It is storytelling. It's actually just being raw, being real. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to overshare and give way too much personal information. It actually just says you're just showing up as you are. And there'll be plenty of times that you do have to fake, you know, well, I don't know if you have to, but it works to fake it a little bit, put on a little bit more energy. If you're doing a presentation in front of bosses and you do really want that job and you're not feeling so great today, you know, are you going to beat yourself up a little bit because you sort of pushed it on a little bit? Or do you sort of, you know, phrase it in a way of going, I hope it's my best thing because I'm struggling with the flu, whatever it is. But it's just knowing it. It's just calling it out for what it is. It's great.
Yes, calling it out. And I'm going to still say that putting it on, I just don't feel it's not only a feeling, it's been my experience. And with the people that I work with, the more that they move away from it. And I see this with a lot of male executives, interestingly enough, male leaders who feel they have to show up that way. Like there's no space for them to be have an off day. And so when they give themselves the opportunity of saying, you know what, I'm great at my job. And this may not have been the, you know, number one presentation I've ever done, but I can tell you this much: you work with me, then X, Y, Z. That's what gets them the contract. So that idea of thinking that we have to put it on, people feel that, right? But if your energy is low, or as I said when I started here, I broke my toe, right? So to come in and say, you know what, I'm doing great. I'm a little occupied with my toe, but other than that, I'm here, right? And so that it brings everybody in the room into the humanness of our experience. And that's like, and then we can breathe. And now I can listen to what is it she's really sharing? What's here for me? So I stand behind authenticity it's the safest way to fly. And it's the most liberating way to be. And it's going to bring you success in whatever you do.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just looking at the chat. Thank you for such an informative session. Loving the practicality of this. So amazing. Totally agree. Totally agree. We are going to have to wrap it up in a minute, but oh my gosh, this session has just really challenged me personally. I know it must be challenging you out there listening, just to really start looking at yourself from a different perspective, an honest perspective, you know, just getting that mirror up and go, you know, what's happening there, without don't get too judgy with yourself. It's actually, I love the way you approach things, Leeza. You know, be curious, be fascinated, go, oh my God, why do I do that? I wonder why. What was the reason that I thought I had to fake it there, or I thought I couldn't really show up as I am? When you start being curious and fascinated by, you know, situations, flaws, it just sort of it becomes like a game. It's a challenge of going, okay, I'm going to have to work out what's happening here, and that is just fantastic, because then it's like, oh, rather than feeling terrible and oh my God, what sort of human being am I now? It's just great, because we all do it. Right. So don't think it's just you. Everybody does it to varying degrees. And that's right. The freedom that you get when you actually just go, you know what, that's right. My job in life is just to become more and more delighted with the person that I was born to be, that I actually am becoming that person, that I am showing up as that person. I'm stepping up as that person unapologetically. I'm you know, and if it doesn't suit all people in all environments, I'm okay with that. When you get to that sort of stage in life, oh my goodness, your world will seriously just start exploding.
You know, and that is one point I'd like to share in closing, is that people think that they're afraid of failure. They're not. They're afraid of succeeding, because when we succeed, when we are out in the world doing our thing, that's when our authenticity is called forward. So when we feel comfortable being authentic, being who we really are, there's literally nothing to fear. We can go all full blast outward and reach for that and give ourselves permission to achieve what we want to achieve without any kind of fear.
Fearless. Oh, love it. Be bold, be brave. Thank you, Leeza. You are an absolute gem. You've been given so much wisdom today. I just love you being part of this summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for having me, truly.
dreaming big enough. I want you to dream big and act bigger. You see, I want to have power. I want to be empowered. Suddenly, being empowered is a more positive word, because I want to make sure that I know my own values, my boundaries. I know what I want to achieve in life. Visible and invisible barriers are only a problem if you accept them as such. So a woman with a big dream also needs to have a plan, because without a plan, that dream is just a wish.
I love her confidence, I love her charisma, and her positivity and her brightness and her color and her lessons about life. You know, as a woman who's been through so much, it was really, really inspiring and really interesting.
I had 4 kids in 2 years. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I had no money. I had to think, how is this dream going to happen? If you actually start believing if something's important to you, just back yourself. Back yourself despite what other people say. Successful people are not held back by what other people say.
I would recommend that for everybody, because everybody should have a dream and everybody should back themselves. So I think she's awesome.
Even when it feels like everything's not going to work, they go, you know what? I'm going to make sure that this does work. I'm going to be positive despite, because it brings energy, it brings opportunity. And as soon as you actually get half glass empty, your vision will start failing. I encourage you to start making your dreams a reality in business and in life. Thank you.